All right, now welcoming on to Tennis Channel Inside In back again. He is a man of many accomplishments, a former British #1, British Davis Cup captain, author, as well as commentator as well. John Lloyd, I think I got everything there also in the tennis world, but always excited to talk to you here on the podcast.
Great being here with you. Always look forward to it.
It's been a while. We talked last year after the French Open. A lot has changed since then across the men's tour. A lot to discuss and dive into. Currently recording this on the Wednesday. Miami Open's reaching the latter stages, and there's one player at the top of my mind I wanted to discuss with you because where we were the last time we chatted, a lot's changed and a lot of things have happened. But Carlos Alcaraz is going for a sunshine double. He's looked amazing. Like, there's nothing more to really be said. We'll see if he gets the rematch with Sinner, what the final stages look like, John. But giving back, and that's why I wanted to start with him. After RG, he had the issues with his health. There were some questions. He goes, he wins Wimbledon. There's still some ups and downs. But the last couple weeks especially, and I almost catch myself, don't want to get too overboard, but this might have been the best. This might be the best version we've seen from young Alcaraz, which is really saying something.
Yeah, I think you're right. As you said, he's on his way to possibly winning the Sunshine Double, which I think is the second most difficult thing to win in the game, men's and women, behind winning the French and Wimbledon almost back to back. To win these two Masters Series events, men or women, is an awesome achievement. He's a ways from going it, but I was impressed with the way he sort of rebounded Alcaraz. I mean, it suddenly looked like in the off season that Sinner had sort of made this improvement, which he has. He's got it. He's got his management of the court is a lot better now. He's worked on his serves more potent, and you're looking at it and thinking, okay, well, he's kind of jumped ahead a little bit of Alcaraz, and then you watch it at Indian Wells, and there. He was getting blown off the court there. And this is, to me, a great thing for the future of Carlos Alcaraz, the way that he changed his game around there after getting blown off the court. At that stage, Sinner looked unbeatable. It looked like this was going to be quick and the sort of not the new guy on the block, but sort of the one that, we're all talking about how many slams Alcaraz is going to win. All of a sudden, you're looking, well, how many is Sinner going to win? And maybe out of the two, who everybody sort of expects to be the next big two once Novak sort of vacates, all of a sudden you sort of change it a little bit. But there, he used his tennis sense on the court. And I know he got a little bit of help from his coach, as these days you do, but he still had to execute the game plan. He changed it around, and Jakub Sinner really lost the plot there and didn't know what to do. So for me, this was a big thing, a big step through for Alcaraz in that tournament.
That last point's huge, because if there was any questions left with what he could be and what the potential to unlock is, it was whether or not he could make adjustments against the game's best. If he could figure out strategies. Well, he did that because he lost the first set, as you said, going away, and then rebounds, finds a way. It is remarkable to see, and again, shows you maybe we shouldn't be judging players super early in their development, but for Alcaraz as a tennis player, and I know the tests haven't been as tough as we expect them to be going forward, John, but you watch all the variety he has, how he's got all the tools in the tool bag, but I've heard former pros say sometimes that could be a little more pressure because you can hit all these shots, but knowing which one to hit. The drop shot's fascinating to me because I watched that Musetti match and I thought, man, his drop shot's great, Alcaraz, don't get me wrong, but he puts so much pressure on you from the back of the court that it's almost like free money at the sense when he's able to hit that drop shot, because you are so on your heels when you play a kid that athletic, that much power.
No, the drop shot is a thing of beauty. You're right about a lot of the top players have been saying that about him, that he's so much ability that sometimes you can almost play the wrong shot at the wrong time, but he doesn't do that very often. I mean, now and again he does, but this will be something that he'll mature on, and he's the variety he's got in his game, and I think his serve will improve. I think there's certain other things in his game I think he can improve. Even though he's becoming a good volleyer, I think he can improve there. Shot selection can improve. His speed is lightning. But what the thing that I love, and I think the fans love, is that I don't think I've seen anybody for a long time that seems to enjoy himself out on the court as much as he does. And it's not fake. It's not like the smile into the crowd when he hits a great shot and they all it's almost like he's going out there. I mean, not that I do it very often, but now and again, even at my age, I'll hit a shot that I think, God, that was good for me. I really enjoyed that, and I'm smiling to myself, even though there's no one at home watching me, of course. But he does it to the crowd, and it's not fake. It's not disrespect. It's because he enjoys the challenge and he enjoys being creative. And right. I mean, I hope he doesn't change that. I don't think he will. He can modify certain things, but he is such a wonderful player to watch. I mean, we all talk about when the big guys are all leaving and we're down to sort of really Novak and obviously a limping Rafael Nadal. But, the future is bright with him and Sinner and many others as well coming up behind.
Yeah, those two have paced the field for sure. And Sinner's another one where there was a time last year when we talked where Sinner was in a handful of guys. There was Djokovic, there was Alcaraz, and there was another group of guys. Sinner has entered the big time discussion. He has a major. It was more than that, though, is how he finished the year, especially put the time in and really transformed his game. So here we are back in Miami where it kind of started for him, where he had the win over Alcaraz, lost in the final. But how have you seen the progress with Sinner, John, the game itself in the last couple months? Not just the results, but how he's playing tennis. What's stood out to you?
Well, what they did in the off season, I would have loved to have been watching all the training sessions because, he really improved a lot during the off season. Now it's not that long, that a big amount of time in that off season, but they obviously focused on things, particularly the serve. I think his management of the game more than anything else. When we know the weapons, I mean, I don't think there's any better striker in the men's game today. The way he takes the ball on and the power he gets from a guy that I don't know what he weighs, but it's not too much. I'm sure of that. He's skinny, he's wiry, he's got that fabulous reach. But when he gets a hold of the ball, I mean, that first set against Carlos Alcaraz in Indian Wells, he was knocking him off the court, and Alcaraz was trying to trade blow to blow, and he was coming off second best. There's been a lot of improvements in Sinner. He's not scared to come in anymore. Not that he was ever scared, but he's improved around the net area. His approach shots are better now. But I think it's more just management. It's management of when to hit the shots at the right time. And also the serve has improved as well. And Darren Cahill and the rest of the guys there have done a tremendous job in him. And he's another one that just enjoys being out there. I mean, you look at him and you go, this guy is a fierce competitor, but he loves the challenge, loves being out there.
Our friends on the internet say 168 is what the unofficial weight is. I don't know if that's weight on, or not, but still
that's power dripping wet.
Yeah, that's that's definitely not after playing a match, I don't think.
No.
But for a guy like Sinner, we talk about the final questions. His going into, really through the U.S. Open last year, John, was can he win the long physical matches? He lost his Zverev there. He lost those matches. And, he's turned the tide on that. But I think part of it isn't just getting yourself in better shape. It's how he's playing tennis. The team, Darren Cahill, his effort he's put in. He's playing very efficient tennis. And I think that's the reason why he switched that narrative up as well.
I think you're right. And also managing the nerves better. I mean, when you get too tight in matches, that can bring on some physical, particularly cramps and stuff like that, and all the tiredness that goes into it. And you've got to manage that. Everybody gets tired. Recognizing that it doesn't matter who you are. There's no great champion that doesn't get nervous at times, but it's how you manage it. And he seems to be managing the game just better. He's a warrior out there, and I love it. These two guys, I tell you. The other guys are going to have to really step up because they're going to run away with it if it's not. And we always say that, and there's other people come up. But I tell you what, those two, when they're playing at their best, no one can get close, I don't think.
Such a fun rivalry, and very much like combat sports like boxing, there's adjustments. One guy gets the better, the other goes back to the lab, figures it out. It's fun to see. Well, I wanted to mention, too, we'll get back to some of the other Miami Open storylines, John, but as we record this, the news of the day that broke was Novak Djokovic and Goran Ivanisevic, his coach for the last 5+ years, are parting ways. Novak released a statement saying it actually happened a few days ago. They had some ups and downs in their personal chemistry, but they remain on good terms. The accolades that he accomplished in that time, it's just jarring. It's 14 slam finals and 9 slam titles in that run. But a run that ended, after Indian Wells, where he was upset by a player, Nardi, outside the top 100. Are you surprised at all? Not that partnerships end in any case, because they do, but the timing of it right now that Djokovic makes the move going into the clay court season where, he's looking to have more Grand Slam success at RG.
Well, obviously, Goran did one heck of a job. I mean, to win that 9 slams. I mean, if Novak wasn't satisfied with that, well, you've got a tough boss, haven't you? That's all I can say. But in some ways, I sort of get it. And I saw him at Indian Wells, and he looked like, I don't know what was going on with him. He pulled out in Miami. He's at this kind of crossroads now where he still wants to win more. He wants to be the undisputed GOAT, no doubt about that. He wants to win that next one. And that next slam now has become a lot tougher than it was before. And I think he senses that. And I think I don't know who the heck he's going to choose. But I think perhaps it was almost like, I need something new. I need a different change, a new change of direction, a remotivation, just rebooting. And relationships do get stale. I mean, listen, I've coached a little bit, not much, but a little bit here and there. And I don't know how these guys do it day in and do it day out, because you can't always be fresh. You can't. So the drills become the same. You can add this and you can add that, and the talk is the same. How many times can you tell Novak what he's got to do? I mean, I know Novak does it a lot of it on his own, but it's a tremendously difficult thing. And to get someone in, obviously he's got to get the right guy, but to refresh, it might be that little nudge that he needs to get over the finishing line. Because I do believe he's got to get over the finishing line this year. I think this is going to be his last big chance to win a slam this year. I probably shouldn't say that, because everyone's, we're always with Novak. So many times you think, okay, that's the end of it, but he comes back and he motivates and whatever. But I just have this sense that, he's coming to the end a little bit, and that he needs to make one this year. I just think these other guys are improving so quick. I might be totally wrong. I've been wrong many times before, but I just have a feeling he's done this as a way of just trying to get rebooting and just something different to get him over the finishing line.
Yeah. Well, you make a lot of good points there. One being the impact that Goran had on his game was huge. I mean, the serve got better, how he played. Like, it's the best serve of his career was under Goran, and that's not a thing. And you're right. I mean, any sport, whether it's individual or team sports, eventually the message gets lost, gets stale. Guys and players or individual athletes will tune you out. I do think, though, that you're right on the money, on the sense that he knows the time is now. He needs, reboot. He's always been a chameleon, right, John? Like, he's always been able to adapt his game to play his best style, but also how to beat the opposition. And he knows something different needs to happen. And that's why, like, partnerships end. There's a lot of coaching changes that aren't as civil and aren't as courteous as this. I think this is a straight up look. It's been great. We've accomplished a lot, but I need to make a change immediately, and I need to figure out something special, because, as you said, the clock is ticking. The landscape's changed. You have Alcaraz and Sinner that are coming, and they're getting better day by day.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who he throws in this mix. I was just thinking about it the other day, actually. As soon as I've read about it, I was thinking, well, where do you go from after that? I mean, the success, who would even take that? Because bottom line is, if you coach Novak Djokovic now, I mean, really, where's the up in it? I mean, okay, he can win another slam and then be the GOAT, which that's a big prize. But let's be honest. I mean, he could get to 3 finals, and he's had a crap year by his standards. I mean, there's not the up is not. It's a small little up, if you know what I mean. I would almost go sort of left field. Me personally, I would go with someone like a John McEnroe. I mean, I know someone, he probably wouldn't do it, and probably. I think he's got to go somewhere. He doesn't need someone who's going to be doing drills and stuff. It's just, it's the mind. I think it's almost like the re-energizing, the motivation, the days before, the nights before the big matches, the day of the big matches, motivating. I mean, he's obviously, I know he's self-motivating. Don't get me wrong. He's one of the greats, if not the greatest of all time. But I don't know. It's just someone that's out there that's going to give a completely kind of fresh, like, even though I know Mac's a few years older and all that, but I don't think it's that. It's not. It's just mentally, just saying things at the right time amusing things. I mean, in your face type of things. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm looking at. I'm sure I'm completely wrong, but that's kind of what I just suddenly thought about. And I thought someone like that would be an interesting fit.
It's tough. It's tough for someone to come in there and coach the greatest of all time, who knows as much tennis as anyone, has won more than anyone ever. So it's a tough one. But yeah, it might take that special individual. Well, more with John Lloyd here on Tennis Channel Inside, and there's still a lot of great storylines I wanted to get your thoughts on. One being, an unfortunate one, the Andy Murray situation. He lost that match to Thomas Michals, and it was, the Czech player that's still playing right now. John, we know Andy Murray's legacy in the game. That match was a brutal one because he suffered an injury that is going to keep him out for a month. He was saying his career is going to wind down this summer as well. Gutted it out. Tremendous heart and resilience to even finish that match and nearly win it. But it's just another bad hand for Andy Murray, who, again, till his final days on a tennis court, says he's going to fight and get back out here. But what was your thoughts on the Andy Murray situation and another unfortunate injury?
Well, I happened to watch. I was watching that match, and when it happened, I thought at first, okay, he's gone. I mean, that's it, done. I mean, obviously the pain and stuff, and the way he was at the net, and was in tears, and I'm thinking, and then then the trainer comes out, really doesn't do that much, and then the last two games in the tiebreaker, he moved well. So I'm thinking, okay, sometimes you get those, the little sharp things, and it'll go away. I was actually completely shocked that the injury was as bad as it was, just because of the way he carried on playing. He obviously he's a warrior and a winner, and he didn't want to lose that match and would do anything towards it. But he has really had bad luck. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's had an unbelievable career, but with all the stuff he's had to put through with the hips and all this stuff, and still making a go of it. And I think deep down, he keeps on. He must be thinking to himself, I haven't really been able to have a clear shot at what I want to do because of injuries all the time. I think that's the appeal. A lot of people say, well, why doesn't he just quit? Well, because number one, he loves doing it. The training and all that stuff becomes harder, but he still relishes it. But it's almost like he feels like he's been cheated of a few years, and he has actually. And so it's like I still believe in myself that I can still create some damage. So this was a big blow, and I don't know the timeline yet. They've been guarded about, but I know he wanted to make a big splash on the grass courts. Obviously, even the French Open would have been his last, and I hope it's at least gets to 100% before the grass court season, because that would be horrendous. It's almost like Federer didn't go out the way. I mean, we would have loved Federer to have had some sort of a farewell tour, and he didn't, because of the knee. And I hope it doesn't go the same way with Andy. That's too much bad luck he's had in his tennis career.
Yeah, it looks like it'll be about a month, which would put us into the heart of clay court season. Obviously, the goal is grass, and if you can get to another Olympics as well. But I see the same things you're saying. He feels cheated. He wants, he had a chance at the Miami Open round of 16 for the first time since, I believe, 2015, and he's doing whatever it takes, John, to get to the finish line on his terms. He doesn't want it to be any other reason except I'm retiring. I gave it my last best shot, but his body has just been compromised. And it's something we're seeing in tennis at a certain point. There is a luck factor, and there is, there's certain things that have happened that just you're out of your control. I just, like anyone, want to see these greats go out the way that they deserve, but deserve doesn't really mean a whole lot.
Absolutely right. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I was happy to see the young Czech kid Mahach, keep it going. He's playing Sinner right now. Part of this youth movement, right? Like, we know that there's the tiers, and obviously Alcaraz and Sinner are far and above, but another young player, and we've seen a few of them in this tournament, John, especially these Czech players that have come out of nowhere, it seems, on the male side. But, another player that is playing and kind of leveling up, having his breakthrough moment.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, sometimes it's like, some of the tournaments you don't see, and you see kind of a few results, and then all of a sudden you actually see these players, and it's like, wow, they are unbelievably good. To me, what I love about them is there's a no fear factor. They're not scared of being on the big stage. There are so many good players out there now. It is frightening. I mean, the depth is scary, and these guys at the top, they know coming into any event, if they're not at the top of their game mentally and they're not ready to play, they are going to lose. I think that's why
Yeah.
Obviously the slams at best of 5, even though I personally would like it to go best of 3. You do have more time, to get back into it if things don't go right. But these boys, I tell you, there are so many good players out there now. It's frightening.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the Hungarian Fabio Morozin. He has had a couple wins. He beat Demonar the other day, beat Holger down earlier in the tournament, but he's into the quarterfinals, his first Masters quarterfinal, his 4th try. John, he's 4-1 against the top 10. Like that out of the gate. Like that's an insane thing. And I know he's 24 and you're like, where has this guy been? How is it just happening now? But hitting at an 80% clip in your first matches ever against the top 10 is unheard of.
You got to love that. And again, once again, at 24, he's kind of maturing. It just, once again, shows that to prove the fact that there's no magical age where if you haven't sort of got the game, you're kind of done. In my day, it was sort of if you weren't in your early 20s, people go, okay, then he's got no shot. Now it could be 24, 25, even as late as 28 before you finally put the pieces together in your game. And so you can't write people off too early. It's very easy to do that, but you can't do it these days.
No, you definitely can't. One of the downers, though, in this Miami Open on our side of the world, my side of the world, is no American men made the round of 16.
Yeah.
And there was different reasons for that. Obviously, Tommy Paul had been playing great, and he got injured, so we wish him the best. But there's been upsets. Fritz and Tiafoe got bounced early. Shelton's another one that there's a lot to like in his game, but there's some raw elements there. But I don't know if you see the American tennis, because the depth has gotten there, right, John? Like we've gotten the American men gotten there, but what do you think the reason is why they haven't been able to break through to that next level, top 10, then contending at slams?
Yeah, it's so difficult. I mean, there's been a good group coming through. Taylor Fritz made the top 10. Tiafoe, although Tiafoe seems to have, I'm not sure what happened in his coaching situation. Wayne Ferreira seemed to have, they've done a tremendous job, and then that broke up, and he hasn't played very well since. Shelton is on the way up, no doubt, raw, but I think he could be very dangerous. Tommy Paul, unlucky with the injury, another talented one. To put everything together to be a slam champion, I mean, obviously that's the ultimate. There are so many American players that are so good, but I still I don't see one other than possibly Shelton in the group that we've been talking about that has all the potential pieces to go to the extent of maybe winning a slam. I just don't see it. I think the players that we've talked about, they're very, very good players. Anybody top 10, around top 20. But to get to that, to be winning slams is something, there's something special about it. And I just don't, I see weaknesses in their games, just not quite there. And these top guys, they just don't have any. It's just not there. And I if you could put them all together, obviously you'd be in great shape. But individually, I just don't see it.
Yeah, the only other name I would consider, and look, he hasn't been doing a lot to validate this. I've said before, beat Korda. It hasn't happened recently, but there's a raw potential there. But no, I agree. The top guys just don't have holes. You look at Medvedev. I had him written down here. He just won, John, he just won 350th hard court match. Yeah. And you watch him tournament to tournament, and you'll see some sluggish points. You'll see some, internal dialogue. He'll be upset. He'll be cranky, but he always wins. He's just always going deep there. Because regardless of what you think about his style, he just gets winning results. He plays winning tennis.
Yes, he does. And obviously we've raved about, or I have certainly, and you have as well, Alcaraz and Sinner. And we forget about Medvedev. You can't forget about him. I like watching him too. He's a strange looking player, and he's got a funky out there. But there's something about him that he just gets it on. He's not pretty to watch in so many ways, but somehow, to me, he's attractive to watch. I like the different things he does in the game. I mean, I love it when he stands far enough back where he could sit in the lap of someone in the stands, and he still gets the job done then. He's his own player, and it's like he just goes about the way and just sort of quietly, and no one really talks much about him. He's a hell of a player. If either of those guys have a slip, particularly in a major, he'll win another one for sure.
Just a quick tennis technical question for an expert like yourself. So everybody on the outside sees Medvedev play like the return position, and they say, "Oh, well, why don't you just drop shot him? How is he able to be successful? Why?" And I know some of this, but I wanted to ask you, why is that not as possible and as plausible as people on the outside think?
Well, it's funny you said that because I was at a clinic at the Hall of Fame last year at Newport, Rhode Island, and Pat Rafter was doing the event, and I said, Pat, look, you're a very modest guy, which he is, and one of a great champion and one of the nicest guys that ever played the game. I said, but when you look at a guy like Medvedev, I mean, I'm looking at you and I'm thinking, can't you envision you and Stefan with Edberg with the first two? I was thinking where you hit that serve out wide to the forehand or kick it out wide to the backhand, and the guy's half a mile behind the baseline, and you guys have got volleys that are magnificent. You hit a short angle, and you're just looking at them like with a smile on your face. And he said, well, I don't know about that. I've hit a couple of those guys. Their returns, even from that far back, they're so tough with the dip that they get with the returns and the speed. He said, I wouldn't fancy my chances against that. So when he said that, I went, okay, respect, because if he can't envision doing it, I sure as hell can't. That's for sure.
Yeah, and the net game and skills might be lost a little bit with certain generations. Exactly. What I've heard. So, if I like that saying he can't, maybe it might be tougher for the generation. Well, a few more things before we wrap up here with John Lloyd on the podcast, Tennis Channel Inside In. The unfortunate players, and I wanted to group these two together because it hasn't been trending well, but we haven't seen the best tennis from Stefano Tsitsipas or Holger Rune recently. No. So those two players that were in that short list of, these could be the next guys to win slams, unfortunately, John, they're trending in the wrong direction. Why do you think is the case for each of them?
I think for both of them, it's mental. I think it's the mental side. I think there's something lacking there. I honestly don't think that they're, and as a professional, I don't mean that they don't work hard. Of course they do, but there's something in their makeup at the moment. But again, what we've discussed earlier on, you don't know when either of them are going to get it. And I know they're different ages, but you don't know when the talent that both of them have. I'm not writing either of them off, but there's something at the moment in their makeup. There's something lacking mentally which stops them from making that final push. Tsitsipas has obviously had a lot of chances over the years. He's a brilliant striker of the ball. But again, what goes on in his mind at crucial points, there's something not quite there yet. And I think the same with Rune. I think there's just, at the moment, they're not putting it together. But I don't think that you can't write them off yet. Right. Zverev is another one that I put in that mix that, again, now I think he's had problems, obviously, with injuries and everything else. I'm not writing him off. I think he's got enough guns in his game where, he could still win a slam. I certainly wouldn't take him out of the equation either, to be honest.
Yeah, I know there are different age levels, right? Holger 5 years younger.
Yeah.
So we got to keep that in mind. And we wish these guys the best, and we hope that they do figure it out and that they find that last piece. But from your era all the way back to this era and everywhere, the game is filled. The history books are filled with guys that got to the cusp but never did break through. Yeah. So there's no guarantee just because you get this far that you're going to finally get to the mountaintop. No, It's a brutal thing. And I got to point it out again. The surrounding players, the very best, are getting better. So there's not this like arbitrary number or level to get to. No. You have to continually be evolving, and maybe that's part of it as well.
Yeah, listen, the game is... I think this year has been such an exciting year. I love the way it started off with the Australian. I thought the Australian was fantastic. I love the way the Australian Open, who, for me, they were the first ones to really, get the indoor roofs going and put the pressure on the other slams. Now they're changing some little rules. I love that rule with the spectators being allowed to come in. That's been one of my pet hates over the years. I've been saying that for years, that tennis players are spoiled and that they have everybody sit down, and people who are paying big money having to wait outside for 3 games before they can come and get their seats is nonsense. They're doing that now. I heard rumours that finally, after something I've been campaigning for 20 years, when you throw the ball up on your serve, you've got to hit it. As soon as the ball comes out of your hand, it's in play. There's all these various things. The last thing they've got to do, though, and the rule that it's only going to happen occasionally, but it happened last year, or not last year, the year before last at Wimbledon, the default rule. That is something that I'm adamant they have to change that. In a one-on-one sport, you've got to, in my opinion, someone told me this 20 years ago, and I wish I could remember who it was because I don't like to plagiarize an idea, but I can't remember. But he said that kind of the same sort of similar things to what I believe now that I'm adding to it, but that in any tournament from the quarterfinals on, you do a coin toss, and one of the 4 quarterfinalists has to stay an extra day. And if so, when the semifinals takes place,
I see. Oh, okay, yeah.
If someone has food poisoning or elbow or problem, you put them in, and it's not an exhibition because you give them the points and the prize money, and they can win the tournament. People say, yeah, but they've already lost. Well, so is a lucky loser who lost in the first round, lost in qualifying, but they're allowed to play. And the same thing for the semi-finalist. One of the two has to stay behind, and then God forbid it happens, but it happened once in Miami, and it happened in Madrid for 2 semi-finalists. Someone woke up ill.
Nadal beats Fritz and then can't play against
Kyrgios at Wimbledon. And then you get a semi-finals in today's world where you've got entertainment, millions of people watching and the fans, and there's no match. Sorry, that shouldn't happen.
Oh,
so that's another
good point.
Yeah, that's the one that I've been campaigning for years, but no one ever listens. Why the hell would they?
Yeah. Well, just thinking if Murray was able to win that match and not able to play, then you have it at the Miami Open.
There you go. There you go.
So,
there you go.
There's another one. Well, John Lloyd, this has been a blast. The last thing I have for you, it's kind of a bigger one, but do you think on clay for Rafael Nadal, he does get his send-off? Do you think we're going to see a decent level from him, or are you more skeptical of what the level will look like from Rafa when he returns?
I do think we'll get a decent send-off. I don't think he's going to come in there. And, I mean, obviously, as long as he's not injured, but all things being, and he gets himself in decent shape, I see him winning some matches, definitely, but I don't see him winning it. I don't think there's going to be enough time left in the bank to play the sort of tennis he needs to. But I do think we'll get a decent send-off from Rafa. I hope it's a really good one, but I don't see him. If he gets to past the 16s, I'd be surprised.
I don't know if you saw, but Roland Garros ticket supply, they're running low. There's a lot of buzz for Rafa's potential final RG.
Absolutely.
So I hope for his sake, for everyone's sake, to pay tribute that we get to see it. But, all things blessed up for him. John Lloyd, this is always a pleasure. You're always welcome back on this show. And I like the idea that we drop in new ideas for tennis to get better each show too. That's a nice little
absolutely. We've always got to be thinking.
Yeah, always got to evolve like the top players. But, thanks again for coming on.
My pleasure.
This channel.
Take care.